Andrew Portelli,
Johnny,
thank you. I appreciate you coming out.
thanks for having me. It's
Um,
very exciting.
it is. You're the first wog that's come in taking his shoes off as soon as you got into my door. And I'm like, is that a wog thing?
No, I just got a sense that you would be a no shoes in the house
I don't
kind of
mind.
guy.
I don't mind.
I just got a sense, and I can see your carpet here is pretty pristine, and everything's in the right place. And
Yeah, I'm a bit OCD with my place.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got a feeling that you would appreciate the gesture.
Thank you. It's nice of you, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Were you no shoes in the house place as well growing up?
No,
Your
no.
parents were cool?
They were fine. I mean, we had tiles everywhere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, it was when I moved to Melbourne, and the first apartment that I lived in for 4 years with this woman who is like her family's from Hong Kong, so no shoes in the apartment.
Yeah.
And it's just a great rule, especially in an apartment, a carpeted apartment. There's
Mm,
nothing better than keeping those carpets nice and pristine.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Are
and
you?
and this is a deep pile. I can feel it under my feet.
Yeah, it's a good one. I
Yeah,
didn't. Yeah, I went for a mid range. I couldn't afford the expensive one because it's like wool, so I
yeah,
went a mid range.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that you can feel stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you keep your place really tidy?
Uh, I would say I'm tidy, but I'm not crazy.
You know, okay.
Yeah. So like, I'll let it if I'm busy. I'll let it get messy, just because I'm busy.
Do you feel like
But I keep it, and then I'll do a bit clean.
have you found a correlation between keeping a tidy apartment or relatively tidy and getting things done on stage? Like I know for myself, if I start cleaning, I can start writing in the back of my head. Like, is there a weird process that you have where somehow material comes to you by doing something different, like washing the dishes or vacuuming or
Oh, absolutely.
shopping?
Yeah, I get a lot of ideas in the shower and driving, but I actually find that I go through cycles, and the I go through cycles not just in my apartment but in my life of things getting really messy and disorganized and feeling overwhelming, and then it gets to a kind of low point, and then I like clean up,
Mm-hmm.
um, and at that point I'll like come up with something.
Mm.
So I was like, and like any type of experience, like whatever it is, that's stressing me out, I'll go through it, and then when I get to a point of having to fix it,
The material?
the so it's like a feelings thing. Like when things feel really bad, I'll
Yeah.
get to a point where I have to change it, I have to fix it, and then
Are you
once I
talking about a piece of material here when the material is bad or?
well, I guess Johnny, I'm trying to it's like a metaphor. Like it's what I'm saying is it's like this happens with my apartment, it happens with
Right.
jokes, and it happens with situations
Yeah.
where it goes through a cycle of like shit, and then I realize that it's shit, and then I fix it.
Right.
So like, and often they are all happening at the same time.
When it's shit, are you
Yeah.
ignoring or allowing the back of your mind to process it all?
I'm like ignoring it, and it's just sort of happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm like not looking after my apartment. I'm letting things get messy. But I but then that part um ends up being useful because then I have the memory of what it was like.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I always find that I have to go through something. I can't keep everything. I can't stay on top of everything all the time
Mm-hmm.
because then I feel like I'm never actually living my life.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's too
sometimes I need to let things
come
come.
at you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sure
yeah,
thing. That destabilizes you, and that
exactly.
destabilization
Yes,
brings about a sense of disorder. That disorder creates creative juices
yes,
flowing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a fear that that you'll lose the creative process? Do you have a fear that one day you'll be like, "Fuck, I can't write anymore. Like nothing's coming out on stage." Or
Um,
is that just me? Like I have these waves where I'm like, shit, am I done? I haven't written anything decent in a while.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that all the time. And then
Well, you work hard. You're a good comic. You're a very good comic. Like I've seen you perform a lot,
thanks.
and you're always churning through new stuff. So
Yeah, well, I come up with a lot of premises that I don't work on very hard,
yeah,
and then like 2% of them work consistently enough that I keep them, and
yeah.
and then the others I just fucking fuck off. But
Same here.
yeah,
Are you at peace with that concept? Because I was always of the opinion, man, I'm letting too many premises fall by the wayside. But then I was like, maybe it's like mining. Mining companies have to churn through millions of tons of dirt before they find a few kilos of gold. So
I,
it's okay now to let premises fuck off. It just means you weren't invested in them.
well, yeah, I think I don't have a problem with it as long as I've got it, whatever. As long as I'm getting enough new minutes
Yeah.
into my act. But yeah, I don't think you ever like I don't I, it doesn't bother me. I do sometimes wish that I was better at turning out new material to the standard that I would like.
Sure.
But I always feel like nothing's ever really gone. So even if a bit doesn't work, um, it's still somewhere in your brain, and maybe a couple years later, you'll find a way to do it, or you'll sort of half remember it, but you remember it in a different way that actually works on stage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, or you make some new link. Like, yeah, I keep all my stuff. I keep all my recordings. Um,
Do you have a quota? You said before you're always trying to come up with new material. Do you have a quota of what you're looking for? Like, do you want 2 minutes every month, a minute every week? How does it work for you? Do you assign it a numerical value, or do you just
nah.
go with the flow and like, as long as I'm constantly got a pad in my hand?
Um, it depends. I mean, what I found was so last year for the comedy festival, I was doing a show where I only had to do 10 minutes, right? The Comedy Zone showcase thing, and even though like I'm always writing new, I already had 10. Like I'd had 10 for quite a while,
Quite a while, yeah.
and what I found was that none of my new went anywhere, and I think it's because it didn't have to. Like I didn't need more than 10, and so I didn't produce more than 10. So even though I was constantly trying new stuff, none of it stuck around.
Okay.
Um,
So you didn't like any of it subconsciously
well,
in the end.
what I think is my theory is that, and I'm only doing my like very first hour this year.
Yeah.
Um,
How many years have you been going in? Sorry to just butt in
uh,
quickly.
about 10,
Okay, 10.
including COVID.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But yeah, this year I've found maybe because I need the time, but a lot I've come up with more new, and I think it's just putting putting myself under the pressure
Yeah.
of needing that long.
Yep.
Has
then
has
finding
helped. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's hard because sometimes I don't know. I mean, I haven't like this year. I can go back 4 years and do bits that I haven't done for ages.
Do you do that?
Well, I will be this
Yeah.
time because it's hard to write
Yeah. Of course.
new.
You feel comfortable in that? Certainly feel comfortable doing that. I mean, Seinfeld does stuff he reckons from the late 70s.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there are jokes in my best 10 that I wrote 5 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't bother me. I mean, to me, if like I always feel like if I've written a joke in the right way,
Mm.
I am happy to say it again and again because the way it's written always feels like true or fun or something like that.
Yeah.
And it gets boring in a way, but it's not. I always feel like when it's written in the right way, it feels kind of a bit timeless. Like it's not just this happened to me today. It's something that is kind of has some kind of lasting
You hit the nail on the
point.
head when you said timeless. I completely get it. Do you find some timeless material has a tendency to rot,
Um,
and you just sort of scratch your head thinking, what's going on? Is it the way maybe you're not invested in executing it, like you're not giving it the love it needs on stage, and then what I do is I put it by the wayside. I let it
yeah,
go away for a couple of years, and then I go back on it, and I find some joy in redoing it, and then just changing it slightly,
and improving it now that you're
improving it.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's more fun. It's
yeah. I um I haven't had that. I've definitely had jokes that have stopped working after a while.
What do you put that down to?
I think it's because
Are you evolving?
I think you change, and your energy on stage changes, and the sort of the angle that you were coming at that topic before, um, which might have been from an angle of naivety, or like for me, I don't think I seemed very confident on stage, and that's something that I've worked a lot on,
Really?
and I feel a lot more comfortable now. But I think a lot of my old bits, part of why they worked was because I looked uncomfortable.
Interesting.
So you lose that, and then the audience sees, is hearing the same words, but they're not really seeing the same act.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's stuff like that. Like it's the way that you carry yourself changes, and then
Yeah.
the old joke doesn't work because it's actually kind of different now.
It's interesting that you said that Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you on stage lacking in confidence, because I got back from England 2018.
Yeah,
So I think when I first saw you on stage, you always carried yourself confident. So much so that I saw you recently at the Bergie, and it was great to see you acknowledge when the crowd weren't really going for a new bit,
yeah,
that you could go, all right, fine, it's not really working, blah, blah, blah. And you made a joke about that. That's
yeah,
how confident you were to actually step back from your own set and acknowledge, yep, and get a laugh at that, and then
yeah.
carry on and keep that energy up.
Yeah. I used to do that a lot earlier on.
Yeah,
I used to do a lot of acknowledging that things weren't working.
yeah. I think it's a
Of
necessary
course,
good
yeah,
thing to do,
yeah,
because I think what happens is you may become a bit mad and start putting laughs or hearing laughs in your head, and then you may become one of those acts. I've come across them in my career
yeah.
where you see an act come off stage and go, that was all right, and you're like, you got nothing.
Oh no,
How the fuck is that all
nah.
right?
That's
What the
that's
fuck are you
poison.
hearing?
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't think there's a worse thing that like a worse um
It's a
trait that you can have as a comic than to not hear what the audience's response.
Yeah, and there's also another nervous thing that happens where a comic would add the laughter himself or herself when there's no laughs.
What, like laugh during the set?
At the punchline when no one laughs,
Oh yeah,
they add their own laughter.
yeah. No, that's
It's mad.
that's no good.
Is there anything else in your life that you're pursuing as passionately as your stand-up? I'm gonna jump the gun and say that you're pursuing stand-up passionately. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You seem like one of those
yeah.
business guys that you're here for you want to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be better at pursuing it as a business, in the sense of not just hemorrhaging money all the time.
Yeah.
But I definitely pursue it as like I mean, not to, I don't know. It's
Is there anything else you're doing as passionately outside of
no,
stand-up? No,
no,
this is it.
no.
Yeah, you're no longer. You've got a law degree, haven't you? Or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I practiced for 8 years.
Okay, so no more.
No,
Yeah, because you
no.
couldn't. It would be intense, wouldn't it?
It was, yeah. I did it for 8 years. I quit late 2019 because I've always done them both at the same time.
Mm.
But I started off in Perth, and in Perth you're only gigging, once or twice a week
Mm.
max. So it was a lot more doable. But since I've been in Melbourne, you know, I'd say there were probably four, like before COVID, in the lead up, you know, I was doing maybe between 8 and I don't know 14 or 15 gigs a week and working full time.
Wow.
Um,
14 gigs a week in Melbourne.
yeah, I mean that was
That's
at the
great.
that was at the peak when
Yeah.
they're the most like the open mics
That's an
and old
amazing
Crab
effort.
Lab and yeah, but I mean we like me and my friends like Pete Jones is a big
Yeah.
advocate for just doing as many gigs as you can.
Yes.
Um, that was the mentality. Is still the mentality I think.
Mm.
And yeah, but by the end of that, I was so burnt out because I was yeah, I was also working like my job was pretty intense, and yeah, I was also like in a like fairly serious relationship, so there was just so much like yeah, I was just fucked. So yeah, I don't think I could do that again. Not like I'm almost 35,
Mm.
and yeah, like I don't know how I maintained it for that long. To be honest.
Are you in a relationship now?
No, no, no.
Yeah. It's fucking hard to have one
Oh yeah, yeah,
because I still pour beers part time and then I'm pretty much gigging every night.
yeah,
I just really how?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I
And you
don't know.
can't go to the movies without thinking in the back of your mind there's a gig on and you're missing out. It just eats me up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I found during that last lockdown, it was kind of helpful in a way. I mean, it's horrible, but um, I I thought I realized that because all the gigs went away, obviously,
Mm.
and I thought, oh, so when there are no gigs, my life is actually pretty empty. Um, like I didn't have any gigs, which meant so I didn't see any of my comic friends or
Mm.
hardly any of them. And I also wasn't working anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, so without stand up, like I literally have nothing in my life.
Did it
So
f- did it
that actually changed my mentality now, and now I'd say I'd more happily take a night off
Yeah.
just to not completely hollow out the rest of my life. Because I like stand up a lot, but I don't want it to fuck up my life.
Too much. Yeah.
Yeah,
You need both because one
yeah,
feeds the other, doesn't it?
yeah. And
That's
you're like, you can have a great set, but
yeah.
um, your comedy career is never going to visit you in hospital.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I completely understand. I had that epiphany doing the circuit in London and on the road for so long. Like hotels just blurred across Europe.
yeah,
I was living out of a suitcase, just city to city. It was fun for 5 years, but then the
yeah,
last five, especially the last 2 to 3,
yeah,
were yeah empty and vacuous.
yeah.
Just like there's no soul here. I'm not living. I'm not.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um. So when you gave up law in 2019,
mm,
then COVID hit.
yeah.
Were you at home twiddling your thumbs, going, "Holy fuck, what have I done? I've got no gigs, no
Um,
law, or
no, there were no regrets about quitting.
yeah,
I think if anything, I left it too late.
okay,
Um, and because it was quite a recent decision, I mean, as soon as I quit, I quit while I was overseas, and then I got back, and then just went hard, like even harder than I was before.
mm,
And it was only for 3 or 4 months, but that's when I managed to get picked for Zone,
mm,
and I was like in the best like comedy form of my life, just
mm,
you're doing so many gigs and you're kind of everywhere.
mm,
That I was like, oh, this is like really working out. Like this
mm,
is going great. So because I'd had that little period, I didn't think, oh, I've fucked up my life. I was more just upset that that I wouldn't be able to keep going like with that like progress that I
mm.
was making.
Sure,
That was the frustrating thing, was just like you feel like you're building up a head of steam, and then everything stops.
yeah,
But yeah, I didn't even really seriously consider going back. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like I
yeah.
don't know. Fuck that.
yeah, fuck that is enough. That's your
Yeah,
soul telling you fuck
yeah,
that. You don't need a
yeah,
reason. Listen to your
yeah.
gut. Was law when I think about law, was it exciting in terms of how you watch TV? Like, were you one of those
Yeah.
barristers that actually tries to convince a judge? Because I think that would be a buzz. Or
Yes.
was it behind the scenes a lot of paperwork?
So I did pretty different parts of my career. So I started off at a big commercial law firm,
Yeah.
and that was all behind the scenes in the office,
Is that corporate or
corporate,
okay?
corporate,
Oh, when you
and
say corporate, what does that mean?
it means we represented the biggest companies in Australia.
Wow.
Um, and it meant, like one night I was in the office photocopying till 4 a.m.
Fuck.
Um,
Anything interesting? Like any interesting cases? Like at
yeah,
4 a.m. that you're photocopying?
well, I mean, the case was sort of interesting. Um,
In a nutshell?
I can't talk about it
Okay.
because, yeah, you got like certain obligations and stuff
To
like
this
that.
day.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, I just wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
But, um, it's sort of like billionaires suing billionaires and
Wow.
just all that sort of shit. Like I once had a check for, I had to pick up a check for $6 million that was payable to bearer.
Was it one of those big ones you win in the grand prize?
No, it's just like a regular, and
Wow.
and I had to take it to the court, to file it, and yeah, I remember ringing my dad, going, "Hey, where's my passport?" What?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that, and then I was a prosecutor.
Oh, so you did?
So then I was appearing in court.
And talking?
Yeah,
Convincing?
yeah, persuasion.
Was that a buzz?
Um,
Because I've often watched TV, and I know TV is saturated with
yeah,
exaggeration, but I'm like, that would be a buzz akin sort of to stand up.
it was. What was interesting was it actually when I started, I was such a nervous public speaker,
Yeah.
and I regularly shit myself in court. Like I was so just nervous. I
Wow.
couldn't get my words out.
Imagine the guy
And
you were defending or the girl.
well,
like, oh,
I mean,
fuck.
luckily,
Get some
the
courage.
way they did it was they'd start you off just on like really basic stuff.
What would be a basic one if you're allowed to divulge? An example
like
of.
Centrelink fraud.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was a prosecutor, so you kind of appearing in front of a magistrate, and then you work your way up to the county court where you're appearing in front of a judge, and the types of cases change as well. So by the end, I was doing like I was like prosecuting pedophiles, prosecuting drug traffickers, had some like organized crime cases, had a slavery case.
A slavery case?
Yeah, yeah.
Can
So
you go into that? Was
it was
someone-
in the news. They've been sentenced, but it wasn't really.
Were they
my
making
case
a
overall.
person just work for free, chained up in a basement or something?
Not quite chained up, but
Ho-
essentially.
housed.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Does that those three cases, pedophile, slavery, and drugs,
yeah.
did that give you, was that like a shot in the arm to do the right thing, like to really go through your notes, build up a good case,
Oh, of
because
course.
you're doing
Yeah.
something just?
Yeah,
and-
yeah, yeah. No, I took it really seriously.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Which is why it was hard to combine with stand up because I'd
Yeah.
be back late, like
Yeah, you got a
preparing
case
for
like
court
that, and
and-
then you, in an hour later, you're doing a dick joke.
yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
But see, that was the interesting thing was that
What a
what I
dichotomy.
found was that stand up got easier because I was doing this other public speaking that I was also scared of, and then I was getting better at that, and then to go from that to an open mic, actually made it easier. In the same way that I guess you're probably like past that whole process now, but I always find that if I go interstate and I'm performing like on a big stage like, at the club, like you're visiting, so you're on the big stage. When I come back here, it doesn't matter what gig I'm doing, I've always got so much more confidence.
Absolutely. It's your home ground.
Yeah, And because you've had that experience of doing something that was actually quite nerve-wracking
Yes.
and it went well,
Mm.
and then you come back and you're, oh, well, this is a piece of piss.
Yeah, it's like a bit of weight coming off the bar for the
Yeah.
next set.
Yeah, so that was similar with all the court stuff. That was
Absolutely.
actually when I started to make some small progress
In stand-up.
in stand up.
Because it'd be incredible valve, like pressure release, to just leave all that behind and go on stage and just be aloof and weird and wacky and
Yeah.
fun and
Yeah.
try some wordplay, whatever your thing is, just fuck around.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no dire consequence. Whereas in court, an hour
Yeah.
before, if you said the wrong thing in the wrong way, you could fuck this guy up.
Ah, well, the amount of the level of humiliation that you're at risk of in court, where it's like, oh, this is your job and you're a professional and you've been to uni, and there are all these other people in the courtroom who aren't there for your case; they're there for the next case, and they're watching. Yeah, things can go really wrong. I mean, things can go wrong in stand up, but it's not like, no one's going to jail. It's fine. Even if it's embarrassing, even if it hurts, it's not anyone's life involved. Yeah.
Does that make your journey in stand-up now easier in retrospect? You're like, it's never going to be as hard as what I went through in court with those huge cases. So bring on the big gigs, bring on the television gigs. I know it's all good. This is just this is icing on the cake. It's fun.
Well, it's weird because in some ways stand-up's way harder because, like with law, like there's a very defined path towards, whatever goal you have. Many people have done it before. Whereas stand-up is...
you can't pin down the creative process.
You can't pin down the creative process, but even like trying to navigate, trying to get onto bigger stages and bigger gigs and establish yourself and build yourself, it's like, I don't know what the fuck like the next step is at any point.
It's non-linear.
It's completely obscure to me.
Yeah. Like a lot of people come to me and they're like, man, I've been going 15 years. I should be on TV.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your progression is not linear. It could change overnight. It could go down and then up. It's all over the shop.
Yeah.
Whereas in law, the more years you put in, like a pilot, the more experience, the more you know.
And because you've got people who... I think it's also because there's just a lot more demand for lawyers. There's an actual proper... It's a profession. Stand-up is like, more marginal as an occupation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the legal profession is much bigger, and can accommodate more people than the stand-up comedy industry, which you could almost not even call an industry. Like so to me, that's the difficulty of stand-up compared to law. Is law, I'm like, it's more serious, blah blah blah, but I actually know exactly how to do it. And not that I was like perfect or anything, but I at least knew the steps.
There's not to put words in you, but there's a manual for law.
Well, there's a very well trodden path, and you have people who like mentor you and take you through it, and they can tell you how they succeeded.
Yeah,
and I think it's easier to replicate. Stand up, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
Like people do it, but you're never really sure.
One thing I love about stand-up, which freaks me out, it's just and scares me in equal measure, is I can be doing a gig and then someone can come along, has only been gigging for 6 months, and rip the roof off.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It doesn't care about how long you've been in the game.
No.
It just does not care. It's all conducive to this energy in the room at a point in time.
I agree with that. I agree with that, but I will say that to me it's like, I mean, obviously having a great set is a great feeling. And having a great set with like new stuff is the best feeling. But to me it's like averages. I had great sets when I started, but in between great sets were 20 sets where I ate shit,
Mm.
like, and it was genuinely embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, I think it's like as you go along, you're just raising your average.
Yeah.
You know, so that your worst gig is better.
How are you with dealing with bad gigs in terms of I'm in awe of acts that can bring a date to a gig.
Yeah,
Are you which camp do you fall into?
it depends. I mean, when I first started, I wouldn't tell anyone that I was even doing
No,
stand up.
either do I.
No.
To this day, I still,
Yeah.
I don't come out. It's not like, hey, everyone, I'm.
No.
No.
No. But it depends. See, I've done it. I've done it now. Brought a date
Yep.
to gigs. To me, the things that the things that I'm looking for are like, is it a cool gig?
Yeah.
You know,
Like a lounge on a Friday. Or
yeah, it's like,
yeah.
oh, is this, or I wouldn't, like if it's I know people who've brought dates to open mics,
It's
and to me,
nuts.
it's like you should just put
Yeah.
a bullet in your own head.
How the
'cause
fuck do you do that?
you're not you.
I'd love to be able to do that because it means I care zero fucks given, and that's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'd love to have that.
But it also means you care zero about the relationship or whatever.
Do you think so though?
Yeah.
I think you're just exposing yourself. This is who I am. I'll be as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
I could eat a dick here, and if I do,
But that
this
it's
is me.
exposing yourself the same way. It's like, oh look, I pissed myself. Like it's embarrassing. It's like some of those gigs.
Yeah.
It's like I just want to do this privately, and then meet you out in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then you can relax. I can't relax if I think I've brought a date in my whole 20 years of stand-up maybe twice. And both times I was sweating, and because I've got the pressure of the gig multiplied on top by a date, what she's going to think.
Of course.
And it just never works.
Well, there's nothing.
And you can't
more-
give her attention because
No.
she thinks, why is this guy blanking me? He's not.
Yeah. There's nothing less attractive than seeing someone bomb. It's like it's because that's like that's the whole. That's why it's attractive when you do well,
Yeah.
and it's deeply repulsive when you don't. And I think it's the same thing of just like our human reaction to, like seeing a person stand in front of a group and humiliate themselves, and you're like, oh, like as I think as like animals, we're like, oh, fuck that guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you I just want to find out how cool your parents are.
Okay.
And the only reason I ask this question is because you're a wog like myself.
Yeah.
My parents, when I left a high-paying job as an assistant buyer for Coles Myer, they were heartbroken. And they freaked the fuck out.
You're Greek?
Greek, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went through university, got a job in head office at Coles Myer, put my degree to work, worked up, and then all of a sudden I said to my mum, hey, I'm leaving. And then 6 months later I was on radio, and she just couldn't understand it, could not wrap her head around it. And it broke her heart. And to this day I still think she's like, because wogs, they hold grudges. They're crazy.
Yeah.
So were your parents freaking out that you went all this way in law, got your foot in, worked, had a $6 million check in your hand, and now traded that for a lottery pick at open mic?
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't thrilled.
Are you being politic? Like, what was that? Like, how not thrilled were they?
So, even when I was at uni, I was studying law, and I was thinking about quitting. Like I was thinking about quitting. I was talking about quitting the whole way along. I got 8 years in.
Fuck.
Out of deference to my parents.
Is that what kept you going, just to appease your parents?
Well, not just that, but like a big part of it was just this feeling of like, oh, I don't really have an option, like a choice here.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, to me, it's like, oh, stand-up isn't actually a real thing. I especially felt that way in Perth, because in Perth, there's no, like, you end up, you perform at the lounge, which is a great gig, but then it's like, oh, what's the next step from there? You go perform like up north, or I don't know, like there's no
it's a ceiling.
there's no but yeah, so I think the writing had been on the wall for a while because I was always talking about how much I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But when I did eventually pull the trigger, like I said, I was overseas, and I just emailed my work and said I'm not coming back. And then I told my folks, and yeah, they were. I think they were like not. They weren't angry at me ever, but they were. They're just worried, like, oh,
Of course.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't understand that world. I
They
mean, I don't
don't.
understand this world,
No.
so how would they?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think their main thing is just like, oh fuck, what are you gonna do? Like, and they want to have I think they want me to have kids and have a house and just all that same shit that every or most parents want for their kids, which is fair enough.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I scrolled through your Facebook very briefly, just at work, because I knew I was talking to you today.
Sure.
I just had a little quick. It's full of inspirational quotes.
Oh yeah.
Do you get into all that? Like you struck me as someone who, when I was reading these inspirational quotes, you struck me as someone who is honorable. Don't cross. If you fuck me over, that's it.
Yeah.
I go with my gut.
Yeah.
My soul is what I listen to.
Yeah.
Is that it? I mean, that now makes sense. Everything you've told me, you're like, I just had to leave law. I had to follow my gut, so to speak.
Well, it's funny, 'cause I just share all that shit on my Facebook as a joke.
Is that an in joke?
It's kind of an in joke,
Right.
Because I also share a lot of Italian memes, and
Yes, you do.
I just do it because
Right.
the idea of me doing it is funny to people who know me.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is odd.
Yeah.
Like all these.
I just
Got
it just
ya.
makes me laugh, and even the idea of using Facebook now is kind of funny because it's like
I'm old, man.
it's dying.
Is it really?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I'm 45, and
Yeah.
I still use Facebook. But everyone's transitioned to Instagram. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still use it, but like sharing stuff on Facebook, even posting statuses. Like, not many people that I know really do that anymore,
Right,
and
okay.
haven't for a long time.
Yeah. Right.
Um.
Fuck, I'm inept at all that.
So I just share that shit to make people laugh.
Got ya.
And yeah. Also, like, I mean, I share a lot of Italian memes.
Are
and-
you? Do you feel an affinity towards the Italian heritage? Are you?
Oh yeah.
You do.
Yeah,
Okay, so
absolutely.
that stuff is on
Yeah,
point.
well, it's
Right.
like it's sincere, but then also with a level of
Yeah.
irony. But
Have you been to Italy?
yeah, I went in 2019.
Where are you from? Or your parents, rather?
My mum is from a town in Sicily called Capodolando,
Yeah.
and my dad was born here or in Fremantle, but his dad is from Lipari, which is one of the Aeolian Islands,
Okay.
and his mum's from Vasto, which is up near Rome, and they met in WA.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard a quote. I asked you last time about this, but someone said, I'm not Italian. I'm Sicilian."
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm in a Facebook group called that.
yeah. Can you explain that? Like,
Uh,
was Sicily its own?
I think it's
Colony.
it's just the idea of there being a separate identity, which is sort of the same as I'm from WA,
Yeah.
and we are part of Australia, but there's also a very strong feeling of we're a different thing.
Mm,
So I think it's just a similar thing to that,
okay.
and it's maybe even stronger in Italy. I don't know because I've lived my whole life here, but originally, like, Italy it didn't even have one language. It had just all these different dialect groups.
Really?
Yeah, so Sicilian dialect is very different to
Mainland
especially like
nowadays.
official Italian. So nowadays, like, they've changed the school curriculum so that everyone learns standard Sicilian, which I think is standard Italian, which I think is the Italian of, I think it was Venice or Florence, but I think it was Venice. But my nonna from the Sicilian one, she spoke dialect, and yeah, it sounds completely different.
Mm.
So yeah, and I think that always contributes to a different kind of identity.
Can you speak Italian?
No, I can, like, understand basic stuff. I could have a basic conversation. I
Yeah.
was having basic conversations when I was over there, but I'm so far from fluent that I would never say that I could speak it. No.
Mm.
Yeah. That's like I wish that I'd learned, but and
Yeah.
I might still.
My mum taught me when I was a baby, so it just all went in.
Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
right.
just I absorbed it all.
So what, like beef, chicken, or lamb?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Muscari, quota, arni.
Yeah.
Everything. I learnt it all.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's easy.
She
now.
was born there. Yeah.
Yeah. My mum was born there. My dad was born there, and they came out here. I think I'm like your father, first generation,
Yeah.
because your dad was born here in Fremantle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were born here,
I was born here.
but I'm guessing
My
did
parents.
they speak English when you were born and when you were a child, or were you the one to teach them? Because that's what my dad did.
Yeah, I taught my mum and dad English, and then slowly, dad learnt through watching Price is Right.
Yeah.
And just the
Yeah.
movies on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And now they're okay. It's great
Yeah.
because now they've got grandkids,
Yeah.
and it's great to see the grandkids talking English to them, and
Yeah.
now she talks back in English.
Yeah.
She's not confident on the phone with call centers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she can somehow understand fluent English between 4:30 and 5 when Bold and the Beautiful's on.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it goes
Yeah.
to shit. It's like,
Yeah.
help me, John.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I found Italy interesting in terms of it felt like two countries, man. Like when I went to the north,
Yeah.
it was so fucking posh and up
Yeah.
themselves, and then the south
Yeah.
was so different, like down to earth, blue collar. Like
Yeah.
even the Greeks, when I went across to Greece, were saying to me, Southern Italians, they're unreal. The rest of them, they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
We don't want to know them.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. It's like
That's definitely a trope. Yeah.
very much
That
so.
that Northern Italians are snobs. There's another one which is that I heard over there actually, which is that the further south in Europe you go, the less law-abiding the people are.
So what's the base? Malta.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe Greece or something.
Yeah, Greece, Crete, Cyprus.
Yeah, yeah. But that's from what I understand, that's true in Italy.
You know what? I wonder if it swings across. It goes your idea goes south and then swings across to the west or to the east, because Mimi Shaheen told me that there's this Arabic mentality of not being law-abiding. Like they have their own system.
Yeah,
It's like the Greeks. They have their own system. Like as you, I'm sure, experienced in southern Italy.
yeah,
You park where you want to fucking
Oh,
park.
yeah.
You smoke where you want to
Yeah.
smoke.
yeah,
You fucking don't care
yeah,
about.
yeah,
And then you come here and you realize how the Anglo-Saxons imposed such strict law and order
yes,
in Australia.
Yes.
And that strictness has brought about such a cohesive system, and it works and it's good. Whereas in Greece, no one gives a fuck, no one pays taxes, and that's
Yeah.
why we fucked ourselves.
yeah, yeah. But that's also why Australia in many ways is kind of boring.
Very much so.
Yeah,
And it's why
whereas you go over there, and that's why people come back from like visiting those places and they go, they really know how to live over there, don't
they
they?
do, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fine to, I don't know, it's like we have so much ambition here. It's like ambition has to be a quality or a trait that you possess. Like, what's your ambition? What are you striving for? Whereas when all my cousins in Greece, they're like, well, we work and we go to the beach and
yeah,
we have 6 months of sun where it's over 25 degrees. So what do we care?
yeah,
And I wonder if that adds life to their. I wonder if that makes them live longer rather than scientists saying it's the Mediterranean diet.
yeah.
Is it a culmination of both?
I reckon. I mean, it's part of it for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, they're definitely. I mean, they're sleeping after lunch. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that must be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely that like, because like Americans and like people from the UK will say that Australians are very laid back. But then you go, especially go to like America, and like this place is a fucking nightmare. Like, this is so stressful.
Mm.
So I guess it's on a spectrum, but
Yeah.
I definitely think that we're grinding in a way that they don't seem to.
In terms, I just got to wrap up soon. But in terms of stand up,
Mm.
I asked people where do they want to go with their stand up, where do they want to take it.
Yeah.
Me, like for example, my own goal, I'd like to have 3 or 4 hours of material
Yeah.
just down.
Yeah.
Just that I can watch and go back to, and hope that 80% of it is somewhat timeless. I know it can't be; it's impossible. But so that would be me. What about yourself? And how do you measure? What yardstick do you use to measure success?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm doing so this year. I want to do my hour at the comedy festival.
Yeah.
And then have 20 minutes in that is good enough that I can really have a great set at a club, like in a long set.
Yeah. Is this your first hour?
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask why it's taken 10 years to...
Well, 4 years in Perth, and then probably 3 years trying to climb out of the open mics in Melbourne, and then COVID. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
So Perth was really just a part-time system. It's like 1 or 2 gigs a week at
Well,
best.
there were people who were professional comics who came out of Perth, who were professional in Perth.
Yeah.
But the problem was, it wasn't that you couldn't do it. It was that because so few people did it, that mentality wasn't common, and it didn't really seem realistic. Whereas in Melbourne, it is somewhat common. You know, it's not as common as if you're in New York, but you can at least see that people do it. So yeah, that I think the biggest thing for me has just been like the mentality of going, oh, like people actually do stand up for a living, and that's possible. Yeah. So, but I think for me, for stand up is I would love to be able to stay in it, have a life, you know, like have all the sort of middle class things that I wanted to do anyway, and then stay in it to get good enough that I could record specials and then actually be like a proper like high level stand up. So yeah, that's I guess my goal. Yeah.
Do you think stand-up will get more popular in terms of not being such an underground form of entertainment in Melbourne with globalization, Netflix, YouTube?
Yeah, I think it's already happening. I mean,
I see a big uptake.
If you look at the last 2 years, the Comics Lounge was the only full-time dedicated club in Melbourne. I know that there have been others before that, but I don't know that they were as like proper. I mean, like I've heard like the Last Laugh.
Yes, so when I started, it was the Last Laugh and the Comics Lounge.
Yeah,
and the Comics Lounge was new. So this is back in 2002. You'd go to the Comics Lounge and you'd perform in the front bar.
Really?
Yeah, man. You wouldn't perform in the main
Was
auditorium.
that in the current location?
Yeah,
right.
It's always been there since day one.
Yeah,
and it just wasn't busy. It was brand new. And the Last Laugh was only operating on a Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they showcased the biggest names.
Yeah.
Then the Lounge came along, very small every Friday and Saturday, just small crowds. I remember one Christmas party, Dan invited us all, and we played indoor cricket in the large space out the back because there was no chairs and tables.
Yeah, right.
There was no need for them. So we played indoor cricket and had karaoke.
Yeah.
And then slowly, as the years went by, it built.
Yeah.
And now it's
So now there's that. There's Comedy Republic in the city.
Kings of Comedy's up and running.
Yeah.
There's the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne.
Yeah, that's another like.
Chandler's got his gigs. Basement. Yeah. Fuck. It's great.
Yeah, and I think and I mean I run what's basically an open mic.
Are you at Voltaire?
Me and Matt Vasquez run the Fridays there.
Yeah.
And so I still see a lot of new people coming through, and there are so many people starting.
Heaps, man.
So I think, and I think that's also a reflection on people like just watching more stand up and being more interested in stand up. So
As an art form to express themselves,
yeah,
absolutely.
and even
yeah.
like a friend of mine, Elliot Stewart, who I did Zone with last year, he just started a club with some other people in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So like Newcastle is not a crazy like a huge city.
It's like Geelong, maybe.
Um,
Oh, sorry,
in
I don't
in
expect you to know population.
yeah, I don't know like the numbers, but I guess maybe similar to Geelong.
Ish. Let's say ish.
Ish for sure. And that's got a dedicated club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, and now there are two in Brisbane. There's Sit Down, and now there's Good Chat.
Nice.
So
I don't know about Good Chat.
yeah, and Good Chat's great. Like it's
Yeah.
a really cool new club.
Dedicated comedy club.
It's downstairs at a bar, but it's like it's a dedicated space.
Like Friday, Saturday.
I think they do like Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and then Friday, and
Yeah.
then maybe 2 shows on Saturday. Like it's there's like a lot of shows happening there, and it's down the road.
Great.
So yeah, Perth's got 2 clubs now. Perth, So yeah, I think it's definitely growing. I guess it's more like whether the money side of it changes so that it's possible to just do spots and make a living.
It's gonna be a very long. Maybe.
Because like, is that what you were doing in the UK?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, because that's the ultimate, right? Is
very difficult to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Unless, well, yeah, I think I'm living the part-time dream, as I'll call it, to my friends. Like, I
Yeah.
work part-time.
Yeah.
I'm not living the dream, but I'm living the part-time dream. So I'm happy because I'm humble.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. But in London, you can be an unknown act and make $800-900 a week, which
Yeah.
I was doing
Yeah.
as an unknown
Yeah.
and flying all over Europe. But you just get treated like shit. Like you're on the 4 a.m. flight because it's the cheapest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's still good because
Yeah.
you're doing stand up and you're making
Yeah.
800-900 a week. Here,
Yeah.
you can do that, but you'd have to do a lot of footy clubs,
Yeah.
a lot of Victorian country driving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I came back from England, I was doing a fair bit of that, and then I quickly stopped because I realized driving at home at night in Victoria is very different to driving from the UK at night back to London in terms of ruse. And
Yeah.
So
Like chances of having a fatal car crash.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts, man.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you can, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe in 10 years. I mean,
Well, it seems like it's going in the right direction. I mean,
I don't think it's a bubble.
What's that?
I don't think this surge in popularity for stand-up, I don't think it's a bubble that's going to burst. I think it's on a trajectory just to get more and more popular because the art form is being exposed. People are being exposed to the art form through Netflix.
Yeah.
So I think American acts and all that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah. No, I agree. So hopefully it's a growth industry.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
When are your dates for your festival? Because I think I'm going to put this online in about 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So when will we be? In about beginning of April or first week of April.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to do a shout out.
Yeah. Okay. So my show's called Tough Guy. It's at Fad Gallery at 8 p.m. It starts on the 30th of March and it runs till the 11th of April. And get along. But
very good comedian. Very fucking good.
Yeah, and I'll probably put it on interstate as well.
Yeah, good.
Once I've got it.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'd love to. I'm gonna definitely take it to Perth, and then I'll probably try and get up to Brisbane and Newcastle and do Sydney as well.
Yeah. So your mum and dad are still over there in Perth.
Yeah, my sister.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect. So you can stay for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
That's the dream. To live with your parents.
Yeah. Andrew Portelli, thank you so much for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, buddy.